Today we will be doing CLAT 2023 Logical Reasoning Section Analysis. Overall, the CLAT 2023 LR section is considered to be easy. Yes, that's a big bang easy section. Now you all know that students who have practiced, prepared and all will definitely find it as easy section. You've seen the previous papers also. Quick strategies and quick elimination techniques have helped the students, and the same is found in this section too. So we expect students to score, the top students who have practiced well over the year with lots of mock exams can target at least 25 plus marks is what we are thinking, and we hope this turns out to be the same in the final result. So that's about the section overall. Let's get into the paragraphs and the solutions and the key part of it also. So I am following a particular section. I'm in a different paper which is shared by our students after the exam. So the master paper might be different in order. So I'll be going by paragraphs and my paragraph by paragraph, so you can verify the key accordingly. Okay? So let's start. The first paragraph to start with is about the human behavior to the doom news. Now, if you see the opening itself, why are we humans so susceptible to the doom and gloom of the news? As we always say, the opening line gives us an information about how the content is going to turn out. So this question mark gives an idea that you are talking about how humans react to the doom news or the gloom news. So two reasons are clearly mentioned. The first is what the psychologists call negativity bias, and it's explained that we are more tuned to the bad than good. And you have an example related to the hunting gathering days. The next one, we are also burdened with an availability bias. Now what's availability bias? We can easily recall examples of a given thing we assume that thing is relatively common, and we are bombarded with horrific news and we get a lot of skewed opinion because of that. So you have a discussion about negativity bias, you have a discussion about availability bias, and there's an explanation around that in these two paragraphs. Now coming to the third paragraph. This digital age. So now the example is going into the content is going into the digital age. The news we are being fed is getting more extreme. And in comparison to the olden days, journalists didn't know much about their individual readers. They wrote for people in general. But the people behind Facebook, Twitter and Google know you well. They have nice algorithms to track your interest. So they know what shocks and horrifies you. They know what makes you click. Obviously, it's all about the clicks on the articles, right? They know how to grab your attention and hold it so. So this is about the clicks on the Facebook and how some news is attracted by when the news media is trying to attract people. That part of the information is given here. Let's quickly go on to the questions part. The first question, which of the following, if true, would most weaken the author's argument? So this one is clearly a weakening statement. So we have four options here, like all CLAT exams. Behavioral traits that helped us in days when we were hunter-gatherers continue to be present in modern day times. Now you are asking a question about weakening, and here the statement is we are same like past. Now this definitely doesn't turn out to be the weakening statement. Next one, behavioral traits that helped us in the days when we were hunter-gatherers are no longer found in modern day human beings. So we are no longer the same. So definitely this might act as a weakening statement. So this is my answer. Let's hold it and look at the other options. The negativity bias makes us more likely to be affected by depressing or sad news. This is about negativity bias. We have certain behavioral characteristics that affect how we see things. We have this availability bias and skewed opinions, etc. But however, overall, the author is giving an example of hunting days and olden days example, and then says we are when even the Facebook and all are trying to gather attention based on that. And this statement clearly says we are no longer the same. So this definitely turns out to be my answer for the weakening one. So this question, the answer is B. So let's get to the next question. An interesting question again. Which of the following is the author most likely to agree with? Whenever you get most likely question, you have to see all options, verify with the paragraph and find your right answer. Contemporary media continuously exposes us to exciting news and information which may be just like the things we usually experience in our lives. Are we facing the same news? Well, that is not what it is. The media is actually trying to give us different information which is not common to us, which is not the boring information around us. So this one, next one, contemporary media continuously exposes us to exciting news and information which may be very unlike the kinds of new things we usually encounter in our lives. If you clearly know, Abhyasis and ALPNs would know how we differentiate the options, and this clearly gives us an idea. This might be the catch point here. So let's see that. Contemporary media continuously exposes us to boring news and information which is wrong according to a paragraph. Contemporary media exposes us to boring news which is again wrong. So this is the answer for us. Media gives us exciting news which is not the general news we come across. So that's your answer for this question B. Okay? Let's get to the next one. Based only on the author's statement, we would prefer having nice neighbors with boring lives, and the author's argument about the nature of news that modern media exposes us to. Which of the following would the author most likely agree with? Again, it's a most likely agree question that we have. Let's see all options. And by the way, you have clear-cut statement, so you know what you need to focus on in the entire paragraph. So let's see here. Constantly being exposed to negative news gives us a twisted perspective or warped perspective of the world. Let's hold it there and move on to the options. In our hunting and gathering days, it was better for us to be unnecessarily scared rather than being scared too little, which is a true statement probably. At that point of time, it was safe to be scared a little bit. That was like damn, because they didn't have treatments, and also prevention is better than cure. So maybe, but is it related to this question? Well, not. So let's move on to the other one. News media exposes us to news which is just like our day-to-day experience. This is actually wrong as far as the paragraph is concerned. The news modern media exposes us to news which is very different from our day-to-day experience, which is a true statement. So this turns out to be the answer for this question. A quick one, not at all difficult. Careful reading will help you get the right answer. Let's move on to the next. The author's statement about negativity bias, if true, provide most support for which of the particular statement. You have negativity bias here and you have the most support statement. Two keywords for us from the question. Let's see the options. We are more likely to notice a story about a billionaire donating their money to charity than a story about an airplane crash. Now this is a positive news and that doesn't fit our negativity bias. We are more likely to be attracted to a news article about a rise in life expectancy, a positive news than a news about a murder. We are more likely to notice a story about increasing pollution, a negativity news that attracts us, than a story about education, which is a positive news. So you have the plus minus that gives you a quick idea. Let's look at it here. We are more likely to form our opinion of the world based on the information available to us rather than the information we don't have access to. Now, is this point something that I can connect to negativity bias specifically as far as the paragraph is concerned? Well, no. So if anybody is confused with between C and D, I would say focus on this keyword for us and hence moving on to this as an answer. So that's a quick look that we have at this question. So answer comes out to be option C. Next one. Which of the following would be the most effective way of countering the effects of what author describes as our availability bias? So you have availability bias here, guys, and you have something to do with how to counter the effects of availability bias. What is availability bias? You have a lot of you're exposed to some kind of opinions or some kind of news, and that makes you had a skewed opinion. That's what we have in the paragraph 2. So a quick look at availability bias might help you get an understanding of that. And another keyword for you is counter, how to deal with it. Now, to deal with it, ensure we don't see information that we may not be exposed to. Some of you don't see any information that you don't come across, right? Ignore it or don't see at it. That is what we are trying to say here. Following only one news source and limiting our perspective. Here we are also trying to limit our perspective. Here also you are trying to limit our perspective in another way. Avoiding all positivity news and instead only reading about disasters, etc., happily eliminated because this is something totally different than a negativity bias question, negative kind of a thing. Ensuring that we seek out news and stories we may not have otherwise been exposed to. Now, you clearly would understand there's a difference between A and B very clearly in terms of the news, in terms of the information, right? We seek out news sources, we don't seek out this part. So that gives you an idea where your answer is lying. And yes, try to get all that information that you wouldn't generally see that, so that you increase the scope of information. You come and see, don't think that the world is only negative, the world also has positive news. So if you treat it as a question where you need to have diverse informations, right? Information from different sources. If you think X person is bad and accordingly react, that's an issue. You get opinions from different people and deal with it, and then probably your answer will be right. Hence, this would go with that logic, and D turns out to be an answer here. Next one, and the last question in this section. The author says that the fact we are bombarded with horrific stories about aircraft disasters, child snatchers, and beheadings, which tends to lodge in memory completely, skews our view of the world. The conclusion the author draws in this statement, if which of the following is assumed. Let's see. Our ideas about the world are shaped by the information we are exposed to. Modern media is only concerned about profits. Modern journalists generate news stories faster. Humans once lived as hunter-gatherers. Now, this is about the kind of stories and how we develop our opinion. As being hunter-gatherers doesn't make sense. Modern journalist news stories are faster. The speed of information doesn't make sense. They're concerned about profits. Are we talking about profits in the paragraph? No. Our ideas about the world are shaped by the information we are exposed to. Yes, because we are having a skewed opinion because of this. So it turns out to be A as an answer for me in this thing. So these are some questions that we have from this paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions are there from the first paragraph in my paper, in my set. And maybe at least 4 or 5 you should be able to do it, even if you're confused with one. So overall, that is about the availability bias, negativity bias paragraph. Let's move on to the next one. Now, what is this next paragraph about? In this movement, the developed countries, we are talking about the developed countries, the keywords are important for us. I point to them because these countries have already burnt carbon dioxide for energy to build their economies, are facing a conundrum. They are in a particular situation. What is that? On the one hand, they are battered because of fast-heating planet. Temperatures have gone through roof, and this is hitting them well. So the temperatures and things are affecting them too. That is one point. On the other hand, observe the way the transition words are given. Ordinary people in these countries are worried not just because of climate change, but because of lack of energy to heat their homes this coming winter. In the US, now we have a specific example here. Gas prices went up in the summer, so people traveled less and consumption of fuel dropped. But now prices are down, again businesses as usual. Now this is a question that we are having something to do with fossil fuels, kind of it. You had similar passages even in the previous year papers also. I'm sure this sounded to be a familiar passage for the students who have practiced the previous papers. And now what is the issue that they are talking here? Here they are talking about the energy disruption, how is the Europe trying to deal with it, and the US has tried to pass a climate bill where they are focusing on renewable energy, but conditional to increase spends on oil and other things, and there's going to be drilling too. So there's drilling for the fossil, and then there's a renewable energy. Two things are being discussed here. So it's about that. Europe again is trying to give something to do with the renewable energy, what kind of situation we are in. All these things are coming up in the paragraph. And towards end, the author says they need to reduce the emissions drastically and leave whatever little carbon budget is to the poorer countries, thereby satisfying such poor country demands. So rich countries, they definitely have more money, so probably they can invest in alternate energies quickly or in a better manner than the poor countries. So that's all about the paragraph. So it's about fossils, energy, conundrum of the developed countries. Let's move on to the questions. First question here. Again, which of the following is the author most likely to agree with? Most likely question. Again, look at all options and move on. People in the US are not worried at all about climate change. Well, that's a little bit of extreme statement. People in the US are worried about climate change and these concerns affect their consumption habits. Now, not worried to worried. But again, another additional information is given here. Their consumption habits are because of that. Is that true? In summer, did they reduce the consumption because of climate change or is it because of the fuel? You know, it's about the fuel as far as the first paragraph is given. So that might not be my answer. Climate change has resulted in increase of energy prices across the world and as a result governments have had to invest in finding new sources. It was more a supply demand kind of a scenario than the climate change kind. So let's park this option and move on to the next. Changes in energy consumption habits of the people in the US are affected more by energy prices than the concern of climate change. If you see the first paragraph towards the end, the situation is normal, back to business now. So if it was climate change, then the reduction in consumption would have continued. That didn't happen. Things are back to normal. So I cannot say because of climate change they reduce their consumption. So this I would prefer to be my answer for this question. A simple language question, easy to read paragraph can be a definitely right answer. Let's look at the next question. Next one. Which of the following is most similar to the author's statements about developed countries' renewed energy in fossil fuels? What did we have about fossil fuels there? One thing we had is the US climate bill. They want to focus on renewable energy. At the same time, they want to give it for brilliant part of it for fossil. So these are 2 points that we have. Let's look at options and decide what's our answer. Developed countries shouldn't under any circumstance invest any resources in fossil fuel energy extraction and must immediately put a halt to all fossil fuel consumption. Things could improve if developed countries recognize the difficulty about moving away from reliance on such sources of energy and make conscious effort to move to alternate or renewable energy. This could be my answer. Let's see other options. Since investments in energy extraction of any kind are expensive, developed countries must ensure they make permanent investments in fossil fuels. That's the key word, guys. That will help us to make it that this is not our answer. Developed countries must not, under any circumstances, consume fossil fuels and leave whatever budget space is remaining to, sorry, I read it wrong. Developing countries must not, under any circumstances, consume and leave it to the rich. This is totally opposite to what we have in the paragraph. So definitely not my answer. So I have to look at it. It's somewhere between 1 and B and careful look at it. This is my better answer here. If you invest in fossil, again stepping away from it is a little difficult chance for us and people might want to continue. So that needs to be done with a little bit of caution. So B turns out to be my answer for this question. I hope you felt it also an easy question, not a difficult one. Next one. If the information in the passage is correct, which of the following must necessarily be true? That's a keyword for us in the question. Let's see the options and look at it. Because it's in general about the passage and the information. We have to read all options and find the answer. The fossil fuel industry in developing countries will face reduced sales in short term with increased sales in long term. Now this point is something that we didn't have as far as the paragraph is concerned, so that's not my answer. Cost of making, installing and using solar panels will reduce substantially over the years. Again, that's not the point for us. Passing a bill in the US is a huge effort and it wouldn't have been able to pass the new climate bill unless the current energy crisis had compelled the lawmakers to do so. Well, yes, we did talk about US climate bill in the paragraph, where there is something to do with the renewable sources, and there's some investment to be done with fossils also. But can this be my answer? Let's see. The fossil fuel industry in developing countries will see an increase in business, at least in the short term. Now, if the carbon footprint is completely left for the developing countries, and if the developing countries focus on the demand and try to meet its supply demand kind of a scenario, but definitely we might see there's an increase in the business there. So this could be my answer here. Okay? So D could be my answer in this case. Next one. Which of the following, if true, would weaken, another weakening question, the author's argument about why people travel and fuel consumption in the US reduced in summer? So what did we have in the paragraph? In the US, gas prices went up in summer so that people travel less and consumption of the fuel dropped. So the cause as far as the paragraph was prices. Now it is not prices, something else. If you give that information, then that could be my answer. Let's see. People like to travel regardless of the season. Only thing that would prevent them from traveling at any part of the year would be high cost. That is supporting the prices statement. Airlines raised ticket prices as a response to increase in fuel prices, and therefore fewer people were able to buy air tickets. Again, prices but connected to fuel. Again, its fuel is the cause. Strict lockdowns were imposed in US in summer, because of which people traveled less. Further, temperatures were moderate, and this meant people had to use less fuel to heat or warm their homes. So the cause is lockdown, not the price. Widespread geopolitical tensions in the first of the year meant that fuel prices were all-time high. Now, people didn't travel because there were travel restrictions, as different countries were having safety issues, would have been an answer, but here it is not a safety issue thing. Again, it's a fuel price thing. So hence, this also is not my answer. So I'm left with, let's see for this question. Yep, C is the only answer for us. That's right. Okay, so all three are related to prices, prices, prices. This is the only one not related to prices. That's the right answer. Next one. Which of the following, if true, could resolve the conundrum the author says? What's the conundrum? They are in need of fuel, and there's a renewable energy thing that they want to go to, and they're again having a fossil fuel drilling happening, and the dilemma of the two reasons that they have in the first paragraph, etc. Let's see the options here. The development of adequate renewable power sources in the near term, that would lead to a reduction in consumption of fossil fuel. So here I am talking about develop adequate renewable power sources in near term. So timeline part of it. So that looks like an answer to me. Let's see other options. Finding new sources of fossil fuels that will ensure there is no shortage of energy to heat homes in the winter. It's not anyhow drilling permission is given. With switching immediately to renewable power sources, if it leads to a shortage, even this is suggesting renewable power sources like the first one, but this is not something that I would accept as a thing. Providing adequate aid to poor countries so that they can develop renewable sources for their use. Well, this is something that we didn't have. It was more about leaving the carbon footprint to developing countries. So I would go with A as an answer for this question. Let's see. Yes. Yeah. That's the answer to that question. Let's move on. Assume that the aim of the US climate bill is to reduce fossil fuel consumption, assuming that's the goal. And why do you think it's the goal? They focused on the renewable energy, but at the same time, temporarily, they have this fossil fuel digging. So that's the bill that they have, right? I mean, They also give permission to the fossil fuel deal. There's no word like temporarily, but that's what they. The bill promotes investments in renewable energy, but doesn't provide for enough increase in developing more sources of fossil fuel energy. The bill is written in technical language which ordinary people cannot understand. Happily eliminated. The bill is self-defeating since it makes investments in renewable energy conditional to more expenditure on fossils, fuels and all for drilling, which could lead to an increased consumption of fossils. So this looks like an answer. The bill doesn't provide any means of increasing carbon budgets, thereby making more room for fossil fuel consumption. Carbon budget and carbon footprint, that's a different concept and it has nothing to do with investments, etc. This doesn't seem to be an answer. The best fitting answer looks C here, 117. C is an answer. Not at all difficult language. Overall, the paragraph is simple to read, and I'm sure students who practice can connect with the terms like fossil fuel easily. And with Ukraine crisis, this topic is in use a lot. So reading wouldn't have been difficult. Options are pretty simple, not at all difficult. I would rate it as an easy passage and easy to do questions. Next one. What is this paragraph about? The third one, even the previous one had 6 questions, so approximately 6 questions. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 questions is what you had in the previous one. Let's look at this paragraph now. The post-truth era is expectedly marked by a discerning erosion of public trust in sources of information. Mass media, both traditional and new age avatars, has borne the brunt of this mistrust. So people are not trusting information, and for good reasons too. Social media is a harbinger of falsity. It is thus encouraging to see at least old guard of media system to defy this discouraging trend. There's a little bit of positivity around the old media system. A survey has said that print media remains to be the trusted source of information. Finding is consistent with the surge in public endorsement, etc. An earlier survey which attempted to examine the impact of lockdown on reasoning pattern. This is a surprising piece of information here. People who used to spend an hour on newspapers every day has risen to 38% from 16%. The increased trust in papers is because lockdowns coincided with spreading of a lot of misinformation about pandemic in India and around the world. And newspapers played a pivotal role in exposing these lines. This is an interesting positive effect that lockdown probably had on the news print media, because in general we all thought that print had some restrictions and they suffered. Let's see the rest of the thing. But that is where the good news ends. So there's a change of idea from positivity of print media or positive effect on print media to something else. What is that? Among other things, the data collected by survey found deepening footprints of social media in rural and urban. So social media is spreading a lot. These developments are consistent with global trends. They are struggling with migration of readers. People are going into online reading. Ironically, the pandemic, which saw a resurgence in trust in newspapers, adversely affected the print media as traditional advertisers moved out. So during the pandemic, even though the readers have increased, it didn't impact their revenues because the print ads, etc. have moved away. The dominance of image over text as cultural phenomena is another challenge. The hope to remain competitive and other things, survival strategies have to be worked out. Especially the revenue model be re-explored, and maybe layouts have to be worked. So this is about some suggestions for the print media, how they can compete with the social media and others in the post-pandemic scenario. Again, the language wise.
Yeah.
Which of the following is the author likely to agree, most likely to agree with? The COVID-19 pandemic was an unmitigated disaster for news media. We did have a positive thing also, so let's hold that option. COVID pandemic had negative as well as positive effects. This can be an answer. COVID pandemic only had good effects, no. Pandemic had no effect at all, that is wrong. The 118, the answer for this question is a simple one, easy to read and quick to answer. Let's look at the next one. Which of the following, if true, would most weaken the author's arguments? Social media is a reliable source of true and accurate information. That's not true. That's not the answer. Social media is, okay, one minute. You have a question that is weakening. So I have an option here. Social media is a reliable source of true and accurate information. Even though that is a false statement, according to the paragraph, here you have the word if true. So this can be my answer. Let's say other option. Social media is highly unreliable source of news and information and shouldn't be trusted. Passage also says that. Social media is a good way for people to stay connected. It's not about staying connection. Social media is a speedier source of information in terms of information than newspapers. This is a true piece of information, but author's argument was more about accuracy of information and the trust factor. So going by that, because it's a weakening statement, if we treat social media as a reliable source of information, not the false part, so the trust logic part of it, it would weaken it. So 119 question A is the right answer. Okay? So just be careful with that words of weakening and strengthening so that we don't do mistakes. Okay, let's do the next one. Which of the following would be an effective way of making print media more competitive? So we already know from the paragraph that print media is a little slow than online one. People are migrating to the online one. So let's see the options. Slowing down the process of printing media production, that would only make it worse. Using more expensive printing methods than that achieve better quality, even if it results in newspapers becoming more expensive. Now, expense is not a solution that we'll think of, so we need to put it aside. Alternate days, again, the reach is affected, news becomes further slow, that is not an answer. Developing ways of ensuring print media can reach speedily. Even though the last paragraph talks about layout, given options, I think this seems to be the best option. Increasing speed of delivery turns out to be the best option in the given four answers that we have. To this question, the answer is D. Next, based on the author's argument, which of the following, if true, would have resulted in weakening rather than deepening of public trust in newspaper since pandemic? Newspapers were very careful in ensuring they reported accurate and true news during the lockdowns. Newspapers played a role in exposing lies and misinformation spread during lockdown. Newspapers actively disseminated misinformation during lockdowns and made no efforts to expose the lies. Newspapers alerted the public to the fact that a number of sources were spreading crude forms of misinformation during the pandemic. So let's see. Let's see the question once again quickly. Based on the author's arguments, which of the following, if true, would have resulted in weakening rather than deepening of the trust in newspapers since pandemic? So if we see the trust, they were very careful in ensuring they reported accurate information. That doesn't seem to be that supports the trust part. Newspapers played a leading role in exposing lies. This also is a positive statement, so it doesn't. Newspapers actively spreaded misinformation, disseminated misinformation. That's a negative one. Again, they alerted spreading crude forms. A, B, and D. They turn out to be that newspapers are responsible for trust. C is the only one that newspapers are responsible for mistrust. So since the question is about weakening, here the answer is C. So little two-line question here. A careful reading again would help you to get the right answer. Okay. So 121 as per my set, answer is C. Next, what would be the impact on the readership and revenues of print media if image were not dominant over text as cultural phenomena? This is a question where you need to read the question. You got a not here, so you have to read the question carefully. Print media, if image were not dominant over text. Question paragraph said that people are switching to image oriented things, but this question is about if image wasn't the important one, how would the things be? Let's see the options. Print media wouldn't suffer as much of a reduction in readership and revenue as readers shift to other formats. They wouldn't suffer. That's the point that we have. Print media would suffer a great reduction in readership. If the culture was not focusing on image, I don't think print media would have suffered. There would be no impact on readership and revenues. That's a little extreme. There would be an increased demand from readers that carry more images, less text. So if you look at it, this question needs to be carefully read for us. Not dominant. Image is not dominant. So earlier in the paragraph, look at that point. A turns out to be the right answer. They wouldn't suffer because people wouldn't be switching so much in terms of their readership aspect. So A is the answer for the 122nd question. Okay? So let's move on. I think this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Another question on this paragraph. How does the author suggest newspapers can overcome the problem of being outpaced by speedier sources of information? How do they deal with other sources of information? Let's look at it. They offer direct means by which newspapers can become faster to publish and deliver to readers. They encourage a complete and immediate shift to digital media. That's not what it is. They offer ways to reduce production costs, which would offset the losses caused by reader shifting. Allegiance to faster sources, it's about reduction costs. They offer alternate means for newspapers to become competitive and profitable, but don't solve the problem of how to become faster. This is where you have the last paragraph, the layout aspect that they suggested, which didn't deal with the speed aspect, but only about how the appearance and all. So the author suggests can overcome the problem based on this aspect. So this is a better answer. Some of you might have thought A to be an answer, but that because of the speed and all you connect quickly in a rush, but that is not an answer. And B and C are happily not at all answers. 123. This one B is the final answer. Okay? Overall, easy to read paragraph. Media, social media, print media, this topic is something that people might have read a lot. Comparison is simple, clear. Speed is a problem we all know. Easy to connect as far as the paragraph is concerned. Not at all difficult one to solve. Okay? Can we move to the next paragraph? Okay. The third one is, now we are going on to the fourth paragraph actually. Let's see. Depreciation of an economy's currency is not a matter of concern in itself. Opening line itself, we have the word not. And some of you, the moment you saw depreciation, you might have thought, okay, economics has come. What do we do? Now, if you read this paragraph carefully, honestly, even if you are someone who finds economics related paragraph a little difficult, you can still solve this paragraph if and only if you have a patient, quick reading. I know patience and quick doesn't go together because lots of words are properly given in the paragraph. I'm not an economics person myself, but still found it easy if you focus on the basic point. So this paragraph I'm going to go a little detailed probably or highlighting more lines and sentences. So depreciation of an economy's currency is not a matter of concern in itself. Decline in value against major currencies has to be viewed within a set of macroeconomic factors. Recent depreciation of Indian rupee is a case in the point. You have a point mentioned and then there is an example given, and that's the Indian currency. The rupee has been depreciating for a long time. What are of concern now are at the rate at which this is happening. So that's the concern here. Russia-Ukraine crisis has disrupted the supply chains, causing commodity prices to rise, leading the worldwide hardening of inflationary trends. This in turn has caused major central banks to raise interest rates, forcing investors to go back to the safe haven of US dollar. They started focusing on the dollar again. For India, these headwinds from the global economy have caused several problems. So, the rise in international prices, especially of crude oil, has led to higher import bill and hence a demand for dollars. Higher interest rates in developed countries have caused a significant outflow of portfolio investments from India. So, they are going outflow from India. increasing the already climbing demand for dollars. By May 22, foreign investors had pulled up around it. If you look at few things, we talked about value, decline in the value against the currencies, and then we talked about supply chains getting affected. We had something to do with the central banks raise interest rates here, and then the demand for dollar has increased. That's the point here. And then crude oil prices have affected Indian scenario. These are the few pointers that we can take it out from this paragraph. Next one. In the face of these pressures, the rupee left to itself would decline in value as the rupee price of a dollar would increase substantially. One way RBI could stand the tide would be to sell off dollars. So one way is they could sell off dollars to ease the supply situation. However, now that's the transition word again. This would mean that the value of rupee could be contained, the nation's foreign exchange kitty would start to erode further. So again, the author is not very happy with that decision. The RBI has been doing exactly that. The challenge before RBI is this: how much to let the rupee depreciate and how much to intervene to prop it up. Too much depreciation would raise the inflation rate, as rupee price of imports, especially oil, would raise the cost of production. It could trigger in a policy controlled interest rates while monitoring inflation. Biggest challenge is to navigate unpredictable economic shocks. Again, other things around the world might affect you. We have to see that. India's economic health is not exactly at its best. Exports may not have taken the advantage of falling rupee price since international demand is stagnant. India's growth and employment situations are yet to stabilize. RBI has difficult choices to make: controlling inflation versus stimulating growth, and stabilizing rupee without affecting the foreign exchange. So inflation, stabilize rupee, don't let the foreign exchange kitty get affected. These are the different points that we have. So had a little bit of points here and there. Let's move on to the paragraph. Let's see if we could do it comfortably without bringing too much economics into solving. Let's see the first one. Right? Which of the following is most likely to agree with? If you have noticed this paper, we had a lot of most likely questions. Let's see. Each of the options we need to carefully read, eliminate. That's the way to deal with it. It is a major cause for concern if economy's currency is depreciation. In the first line itself, they said that if it's depreciating, that alone is not the thing, but there are other factors. So let's park that option there. Currency depreciation is not a reason for worry in itself, but if macroeconomic factors are not good, that's somewhere in the first 3-4 lines in the paragraph. You don't need to be an economic student to do that. Careful reading. That's it. Next one. This could be my answer, so let me park it there. The next one. The fact that Indian rupee is witnessing a decline in value against major currency is very much worrisome. Now here, if you see, major cause for concern, worrisome. A and C are something similar. A central bank must always do everything in its power to stem the slightest depreciation of economics currency. Again, a lot of trigger words that we have here. So if you look at it, in this case, is not a reason for worrying itself, but if other factors are not good, then it is something to worry. So this turns out to be the best possible answer for us in this question. Okay? So 124B. First 2-3 lines of the paragraph will help you to get to this answer. Honestly, most likely agree or disagree questions are more to do with information in the paragraphs. This careful reading itself, little less of critical thinking, but more of reading there. Which of the following, if true, would reduce the decline in value of the rupee? Based on the author's argument, which of the following, if true, would reduce the decline in the value of the rupee? Let's see the options. Appointing new governor for the RBI has a better sense of how to deal with it. A steep increase in prices and continued disruption of supply chain. This clearly we said that supply chain gets affected and commodity price increase, that's inflation, and that's not going to definitely help and deal with. A reduction in worldwide inflation trends and reduction of interest rates. If interest rates come down, that demand of dollar part that we had in the first paragraph. And if inflation come down, again prices will be better, situation will be better, fuel prices and all will be better. So cost might come down. So this, let's hold it. Are we buying as many dollars as possible from the market? Now, if you look at overall, we had this thing about inflation part and interest rates part from the first paragraph. Going by this, C seems to be a better thing. If overall inflation is taken care of, if things become better, no economic shocks across, and the interest rates part is taken care of, this would reduce the decline in the value of the rupee. That means the value of the rupee increases. One thing students have to be careful with: price and value, these terms, just be little careful the way the adjectives are given around it, so that you're not unnecessarily confused. Okay? Let's see the next question. Which of the following, if true, would most weaken the author's argument? As we always know, weakening is about getting to the argument, thinking of what is the assumption behind that and attacking that assumption. So each of the options, which of the following would weaken the author's argument? Indian economy has been affected by global trends and increase of interest rates in the development. This is in support with the paragraph only. This is positive. This is in support of the paragraph. Since developing country markets have increased their interest rates, global investors have pulled out. Again, there's a direct line in support from the paragraph. As demand for US dollar increases, it is likely rupee price of a dollar would increase substantially. Rupee price increase against dollar versus the value. Read that carefully. Next one. The Indian economy and currency are highly protected and have been insulated from the global inflationary trends and the increase of interest rates in developed countries. So here the entire focus was like inflation, going back to the demand of US dollars, supply chains, global factors, etc. But this line clearly says India is a little bit of insulated economy. So that totally counters what the point the author said in the paragraph. So this will be weakening. Please look at the keyword. It's not strengthening, it's weakening. So this turns out to be the answer for this question. Okay? Okay, let's move on. Which of the following would most strengthen the author's arguments for why Indian exports may not be able to take advantage of falling rupee? We read the paragraph and we have clear information where exports point was discussed. Again, a stagnant economy as a point was also given in the second paragraph towards the end. If you remember that, we will tackle this question. So, which of the following would strengthen? So, it's supporting the author's point. Let's see the options. Economies across the world are witnessing a slowdown, and in such economies, demand for imports decrease substantially. Makes sense. Let's see. Economies across the world are booming, and there's an increase in demand. Increase in demand, that's not what it is. A reduction in the volume of exports would be more offset by increased value of dollars in Indian exporters would earn. That's again wrong. Countries across the world have managed to find ways to insulate themselves. Doesn't turn out to be the answer. 127. So A looks like as an answer which is more in relation to the stagnant economies, because of which Indian thing and exports couldn't benefit so much. So A is a better answer. Okay? Let's move on. 128. Based on the author's argument, which of the following must necessarily be true? Again, a necessarily be true question. Second time we got this question in the entire set of questions so far. So let's see this. The continuing depreciation of Indian rupee at its current rate, coupled with worldwide inflationary trends, would result in political instability in India and consequently all of South Asia. We'll have to hold that because we didn't talk much on the political instability. Let's see that. If nothing else is done, the rise of interest rates in developed countries, coupled with hardening of inflationary trends across the world, will result in a fall in the value of rupee against dollar. Maybe. This is my answer. Let's see other options. If inflationary trends continue to harden across the world, and if interest rates in developed countries increase, they will increase investments in India. This is definitely opposite as far as the paragraph is concerned. So happily eliminated. If nothing else is done, rise of interest rates in developed country markets coupled with inflation will result in a rise in the value of rupee against thing. Remember that rise in the price and value point is something that you need to be using it carefully. So going by this, B looks like the best possible answer in the given thing, because this is also wrong. Please read these information carefully here. And this is wrong because we didn't talk about it a lot. Okay? Makes sense. Going with 128. Which of the following is the author most likely to agree with? RBI must not focus solely on preventing depreciation of the rupee, as that result in negative impacts on other aspects of economy. This looks like an answer. RBI must focus solely on preventing depreciation. This is not. Periodic inflation trends are normal. RBI shouldn't worry. RBI need not do anything. So I think 129A seems to be a better possible answer. ठीक है, easier one, careful elimination will help you get the right answer, not at all difficult. ठीक है, so that's the fourth paragraph that we had about inflation, RBI, economy, etc. Most of the options were simple. Questions you could connect with the information in the paragraph, probably not very difficult. Okay, let's see this one. What is this paragraph about? While men and women are both considered to be capable as they grow older, only women bear the prime. They are seen as less warm as they age. So again, this looks like women at workplace issue and how they are perceived as they are aging. This series of studies is reportedly the first to look at both gender and age. They're hardwired, and you have this lady Jennifer Chapman point here. Then let's see. In an analysis of professors, female professors witnessed a decline as they moved from 30s to 40s and low around 47. All this while evaluation of male professors remained consistent. After the age of 47, the evaluations increased again, probably because of the grandmotherly thing, according to Laura Craig. These are some points about how women are perceived at workplace as they age. Studies and also face motherhood penalty, where around parenting duties lead to believe women are less committed to their careers. This has several drawbacks, most particularly in hiring, promotions, etc. And then we have negative perception of women in middle age can also be linked to stereotypes around menopause, etc. Psychologists studied people differ in their opinion. So this is all about how women are treated as they age. This is again a familiar topic. I'm sure you've come across many passages about women and workplace kind of thing. It's a topic that you will come across in standard national newspapers once in a while whenever you read it. So not at all difficult topic to start. I would say easy to read passage actually. Let's look at the questions here. Which of the following is most likely to be true? The author's statements about gendered networks in the workplace are true. Let's see. Mid-career women do not find it easy to get access to senior leaders who are usually male as their male colleagues. They therefore find career progression to be easy to come. You have to be cautious here. The first part of the sentence is a trap for you. The key is in the second part, and this doesn't become an answer here because they don't get career chances so easily. You have to be cautious. If you were in a rush, you would have made a mistake. Mid-career women find it easier to access leaders. This is happily wrong. Mid-career women do not find it as easy to get access to leaders. Therefore, they find career progression hard. This looks like the complete fit. Find it easier to access. Happily eliminated. So, best possible answer is C. Okay? Easy to read. Carefully, if you observe all the four options, eliminate, you can get the answer. Next one. Which of the following is most likely to be an outcome of what the author describes as motherhood penalty? Motherhood penalty, you had it in the paragraph where they might have other responsibilities, hence they might not be able to do work. That kind of attitude was there. Let's see the option. People are more hesitant to hire men. Irrelevant, wrong. People are more hesitant to hire women, right, as far as this is concerned. Maybe more willing to hire men of similar age, possible. Women from the mid-30s prioritize. This is from the perspective of women. Women have children are less committed. This is again another opinion. So this is the possible right answer for this particular question, because that's the age group and that's the hiring issue that they are facing. That's the repercussion that they have. So B is the best possible answer for this question. Okay? Easier one, not at all difficult. If you read 1 and 2, automatically you will get an idea. Most of the questions, even if you read the options, you could eliminate in the entire exam. Which, if professors' evaluations are most important criteria in awarding promotions, then which of the following would be most likely outcome based on the information provided in the passage? So, male-led professors are likely to be promoted at an even rate throughout their career, while women professors would face a lower likelihood of promotion. Looks like an answer. Let's see other options. Since there is a wide disparity between evaluations between male and female, the practice of depending on evaluations will get abandoned. That's not the point here. Male and female professors will receive promotions at similar rate. Again, it's a factually incorrect one. Women professors are likely to be promoted at an even rate throughout their career, while male professors would experience a lower one. Again, not an answer. So 132, A seems to be a better possible answer. Not so much of thinking, not so much of critical reasoning, simple language. Let's move on to the next question, guys. Which of the following is the author most likely to agree? Overall, again a most likely to agree question. Women going through menopause often quit workforce voluntarily. Women going through menopause are more likely to be perceived negatively at the workplace. Women going through menopause should be permitted to take a career sabbatical, are likely to be perceived positively at the workplace and professional. This is the answer, because you have to get me. See, disagree. He disagrees because they are not treated uh, positively at their workplace at that point of time. Okay? So that's the answer for the 133. Last line of the paragraph clearly has that answer. So if you have read till the end, you would find it easy to solve. Which of the following, if true, would strengthen the main argument in the passage? Several independent studies conducted in different countries have shown that women in workplace are perceived positively and are favorably treated at their age. Positively, that's definite no. Several independent studies conducted in different countries, first line is almost same. Negatively and are unfairly treated. Supporting statement, this can be my answer. Studies mentioned in the passage have been discredited after they were published. You are attacking the studies here, not the point. So that's something that we shouldn't consider. Studies mentioned in the passage were conducted on sample size. Now, if it's a small sample size, it indirectly says that the study is not something that we need to consider, right? That's a sample size logical flaw that we are trying to give here. Now, will that support it or weaken it? Well, you know the answer here. So finally, my best answer for the 134 one is B. Okay? So that's one sample size logical flaw that they brought into this scenario, but overall an easy question, not at all difficult to do. Let's see with the 135 one. Which of the following would weaken Laura Craig's argument? In the first paragraph towards the end, when we talked about grandmotherly scenario, you got this case here. So let's see. Women professors, and you have a statement of weakening. Women professors perceived as grandmothers are regarded likable. That's more a supporting statement. Women professors perceived as grandmotherly are treated better by their colleagues, regarded as being slow and if inefficient and outdated. This is definitely a negative one. Women professors are highly receive much more respect. Again, wrong. So if you look at the question as weakening one, this turned out to be the answer. 135C is the answer. So now that's almost all the paragraphs and all the questions. You had around 5 and easy to read, familiar topics, not at all difficult questions. Options were close. They were mostly on elimination techniques. The overall paper, if you see, most likely agree, most likely disagree questions dominated, which have more to do with careful reading. There are one or two necessarily true questions which students might find a little difficult because there's a little connection that you need to make with the paragraph, and overall it's a doable section. There were few strengthening weakening questions. As we all know, the options were also not confusing there. If you actually read all options, you will get some idea, because most of the lines in the options were like have the statement is similar across the 4 options, and there is some part of it which is different. So that will also give you an idea about dealing with your particular question. So overall, I would say this was an easy section and doable section. 25 plus is what I'm expecting the top students to score, and a doable, achievable score. We'll have our cutoffs and all. You can always look at that video shared by us, and you'll have the predictions around that place. So, logical reasoning, as I would always say, a trustworthy section. Careful reading, quick thinking, and I'm sure I'll try to do the video also in a quick, short time at a fast-paced manner, because that's how we do in the actual exam. Quick, quick, quick. Time matters, right? So that's it, guys. Finally, the concluding one that I would like to put here. I'm not making any key contestations here, because we've seen over the years logical reasoning is about critical thinking and interpretations. So nothing major made from our side. We'll have to see how the final results will turn out. All the very best, and do follow us on our lawprep.in page for further information about different colleges and exams. All the very best, guys. Thank you.